So I started One Piece about a week ago, and I'm on chapter 659. So right now I'm about post-war arc, and I must say, although we have a lot of memes saying One Piece gets good after chapter 500, it's kinda the truth. I enjoyed the early arcs, but there were definitely some arcs where I found it a little bit boring, like Skypiea and Water 7. But that war arc really blew my mind. Of course, I'm about halfway through the story now, so I want to talk about my experiences. One Piece isn't just a story about pirates seeking treasure. It's a tale of freedom, adventure, and the blurry lines between heroes and villains. One of the ideas and central themes that I've really enjoyed as I've grown older is the idea of freedom. It was really brought to my attention during AOT, Attack on Titan, but it was brought up again in One Piece during the Subodi Archipelago arc, in chapter 507, when they say, the one who is most free is the Pirate King. In the story, I've seen it enough that people are gravitating towards Luffy because they see Goldie Roger in him. It's funny, because although Luffy isn't the strongest, he's a character that represents freedom even from early on in the story. We have this 17-year-old kid who says he wants to be the Pirate King. He's gathering a crew, traveling all over, doing what he wants, and not letting anyone say he can be anything less. Luffy represents freedom in its purest form, not bowing down to authority, breaking societal chains, and fighting for the right to live life on his own terms. His crew is just a further extension of him, all of them wanting to seek goals that others might criticize for being unrealistic. But I think this is what makes the story so captivating, because it's not all just about treasure. Pirates all want treasure, but what's funny is the treasure almost feels like an afterthought in the story. These guys are just enjoying the adventure, and even when they're running away from the Marines, it's so unserious. They give off this feeling of being so free. Nothing is holding them down. They just move on to the next town and repeat the process until they can get to their goal. Another thing that I noticed is this reoccurring idea of the next generation and youth. Throughout the story, older characters like Whitebeard, Roger, and Raylan pass the torch to the younger generation, believing in their potential to reshape the world. Luffy and his crew embody the energy and hope of youth, challenging the status quo and inspiring others to dream. Oda emphasizes that the future belongs to those who dare create it, and it is this belief in the next generation that fuels much of the series' emotional depth. Being a young guy myself, I can resonate. A character like Luffy, who is so childlike, sees the world as his oyster. As a child, you're told you can be whatever you want, and Luffy wants to be the Pirate King. Adults will entertain it too, but as you get older, they're gonna say, okay, playtime's over, what do you want to be? But I like Luffy a lot, and you see it in how other characters gravitate toward him, because he's unyielding. Children are stubborn. They will be like, I'm gonna be an astronaut. And the parents will try to reason with them, tell them how hard it's gonna be. But the kids will say, I don't care, you said I can be anything, and I'm gonna do this. Luffy is the same way. He says he's gonna be the Pirate King, and he's not gonna be anything less. So many of the characters you could say have childlike dreams, and they've reignited after meeting Luffy. As adults, we put ourselves into boxes and limit ourselves. But as youths, we're free. We have no limits, because we don't see them. We just have goals, and we're trying to find ways to get to them, because we have no perceived things holding us back. What about this idea of heroes and villains? Who are people you think are heroes and who are villains? If you were to look at it from a normal perspective, you would say, well, the government and law enforcement are the good guys, because they're trying to stop the bad people from committing crimes. But that's a very abstract way of looking at things. In One Piece, we see a story from a pirate's perspective. I don't think any of us would say Luffy is a villain by any means. By most accounts, he'd be a hero or a good guy. Morality is clearly not black and white. We've seen many of the Marine captains say they don't need people who won't stand up for justice and go as far as sacrificing or killing their own comrades. What about this is justice? Throughout the story, we see Marines claim to fight for justice, yet they enable and protect systems of oppression like the Celestial Dragons. These nobles who will kill commoners without a second thought and enslave those they so desire. The pirates labeled as criminals are often the ones standing up for the common people or the oppressed. Characters like Luffy and his crew who saved Alabasta, but the narrative is controlled by the government who paints him to be a criminal. I enjoyed this plotline because it's a reflection of reality. The false sense of security, the lines being black and white, and people just taking what they hear and going with it. It's always fun to see how far people will go to try and control the narrative and give off the perception of power to the people. Any losses, those won't be talked about, and they're going to be kept a secret. The things that are said to be for justice, even if morally wrong, will take place, but they're going to be covered up in the history books. Anything that can be framed as a win will be broadcasted, but always negate the small details so the public don't know the truth. And if anything ever gets out, twist the narrative, get rid of the witnesses, and have damage control. We see this a lot from the Marines in the story, but what's funny is the pirates don't care about the public narrative, and you can't help but root for them. The story does a great job of telling how perspective is everything when deciding good or bad. Another thing I enjoy is the representation of friendship in this series, because it's a reflection of real life. In reality, most great things aren't done alone. And this leads me to my favorite character of the crew being Zoro. For me, Zoro is what I'd like to be, and it's also what I'd like to manifest as the person next to me. He holds a few of my favorite characteristics: loyalty, tenacity, and strength. He's not some over heroic character, but what he is though is someone who stands up for his beliefs and those of his captain. I knew he was my favorite character after the scene when he was trying to fight Mihawk, but he gets destroyed. He could have died, but instead he stands up and takes another slash from him as a battle scar and a representation of his promise to himself to never lose again and rise again to be the best swordsman. Seeing all the characters bond together and having these scenes of misunderstanding, specifically during the episodes where we finally get their backstories, I'm referring to Nami and Robin, but Luffy still believes in his crew. It's almost poetic seeing these characters try and play a villain because they value their friends so much. They want them to leave safely, even at the cost of their own dreams. I feel as though this series does the whole power of friendship trope well because it isn't equal and insta win. I enjoy the points where they see their crew fighting others and they're getting their ass beat. One of the other members want to step in, but they stop them. It's belief in their members, but also realizing this is what they want. This is the challenge they need to overcome, and you stepping in solves nothing. Real friendships exist on both planes, letting someone face challenges, but also being there to help them if they need it. It's also funny when the guy members anyway, they're like, this is a fight between men, don't interfere. I think the war arc really cemented my interest in wanting to see how One Piece ends. What makes a good story is seeing the ups and downs of our hero and the challenges they face. I must say, Oda does a great job of writing in a way that makes you feel different emotions. That scene with the going merry and it wanting to keep going with its crew one last time does a great job of pulling the heartstrings. So whether you're here for epic fights, deep lore, or unforgettable characters, One Piece has something profound to say. Freedom, the value of a journey, and the complexity of its heroism. These themes make One Piece more than a story. Am I gonna sit here and tell you One Piece is the best story ever? What I'm gonna say is, I haven't made it to the end. Where I am right now, I'll say, I enjoy the story and I think you should give it a chance, and after getting to the end, we can come to our own conclusion. While this wasn't really a video about me talking about like the whole One Piece story or whatever, this was really just me like talking about some of the central themes and really what I just enjoyed about the story. So if you really enjoyed this video, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to you guys next time. Peace.